He died for her dreams. The wind blew through the mist-covered mountains, slipping through the cracks of a small clay house nestled quietly in the valley. That night was eerily silent. The moon was swallowed by clouds, leaving only a few scattered stars flickering faintly in the ink-black sky. Inside the modest home, where the light of an oil lamp flickered as if on the verge of fading out, a mother sat quietly on a bamboo bed. Two children nestled against her chest like baby birds frightened by the dark. Zoya, a petite, lively 8-year-old girl, looked up, her eyes crystal clear yet holding something far too distant for her age. "Mom," she whispered, "is there really a place like heaven in this world? A place where good people get to live forever without suffering?" The mother smiled, her smile melting into the cold air. "Yes, my child. But only those who keep a pure heart, without greed, hatred, or deceit, can find the door that leads to that place." The girl turned her head to look at her older brother, Ali, who sat quietly, holding a worn-out book in his lap, his gaze drifting far away as if lost in another world. "So, will Ali be able to go there, Mom?" She gently placed her hand on Ali's head and softly stroked his hair. "If someone like Ali doesn't get to go there, then no one ever will." Ali said nothing. He simply lowered his head, lips pressed together, as if trying to swallow thoughts too big for his young age to comprehend. The night continued in deep silence. The wind sounded like a call from a place far away, both cold and haunting. The siblings' childhood passed in poverty, but it was filled with love. Their parents toiled from dawn to dusk but never let them go without. The only thing they didn't have was time, and that, unintentionally, made the distance between the two children grow more noticeable. Ali was always the quiet one. From a young age, he yielded, endured in silence. When Zoya wanted his toy, he gave it to her. When she grabbed the last piece of bread, he smiled. He never said no. Every time something was taken from him, Ali simply smiled, as if he were happy just seeing his sister get what she wanted. And Zoya? The older she got, the more she got used to it. She began to believe that the world worked like this: if I want it, I'll have it, no matter who it belongs to. No one realized that within Zoya's growing heart, a shadow had begun to take root, small, but persistent, the shadow of envy and selfishness. Once, when Ali received a new pair of shoes from their mother, his old ones worn to shreds, Zoya threw a fit for 3 days and nights until she got an identical pair, even though hers were still perfectly fine. Ali never complained. "If it makes you happy, that's enough," he said, his eyes so sincere that even years later, Zoya would never forget them. And then came that fateful night. Their parents left the village to attend a relative's wedding in town, leaving the children at home alone. Zoya jumped in delight like a bird set free. Ali just smiled and picked up his book, as always. As darkness fell, a knock came at the door, short, sharp, and chilling, like a summons from the other side. An old man from the village, hair ghost white, stepped in with a look Zoya had never seen before: despair. "Your parents, there's been an accident. They're gone." Ali froze. Zoya could only step back, trembling. No one cried. There wasn't enough breath left to cry. In a single heartbeat, the world fell into stillness. The next morning, Ali didn't go to school. He wrapped up his books, packed them into a small cloth bag, and left home to work. Not a word of complaint, not a sigh. He simply placed his hand gently on his sister's head and said, "Don't worry. I'll take care of you. You just focus on studying." From that day, Ali became the only man in the house, a house now silent without their father's voice. He worked wherever he could, carrying loads, sweeping floors, fetching water, cleaning stables. One job after another. And at home, he still managed to smile, cook meals, wash clothes, and prepare his sister's books. He was no longer a 12-year-old boy. He had become a father, silently, and without anyone calling him one. Zoya grew up in the shelter of that sacrifice without ever realizing it. She continued to demand more, first little things, then bigger, new shoes, new dresses, tutoring books, a phone, money to go out. Ali never refused. He simply worked more, slept less, ate hastily. The dark circles under his eyes deepened. His hands turned calloused and thin. But he always said, "As long as you're smiling, I'm alive." Zoya never once asked, "Are you tired?" As if such a thing didn't matter. Ali was the strong one, he had to be. Ali was the shadow, the one who bore the weight, the one who was always ready to fall, so she could rise. And like all stories forgotten in silence, what must come, eventually comes. But Zoya had yet to understand that what she had was never her brother's duty, it was a sacred gift. And once lost, it could never be found again. Time flowed quietly, like an old river that no longer remembered where it began. Ali, once just a boy shoveling buffalo pens, had grown into a 17-year-old young man, thin, sun-darkened, but strong. His face was worn, his eyes rimmed with deep, tired circles, each one a leftover from countless sleepless nights. Zoya was different. She grew up under the shield of her brother's sacrifices, untouched by torn shoes, patched clothes, or meals made only of thin rice porridge. She went to school, beautiful and radiant, standing out among her peers. She began to dream big dreams, dreams that weren't wrong in themselves, but which were fed by a deep and dangerous ingratitude. One afternoon, after coming home from school, Zoya sat down beside Ali. She pressed her lips together, then spoke as casually as if she were talking about the weather. "I don't want to live in the village anymore." Ali paused in the middle of scrubbing the stove, turned to his sister. "Why?" "It's cramped here. Dirty. Poor. I want to go to the city to continue studying. I want a different life." Ali said nothing. His eyes drifted toward the fields bathed in sunset. A cold wind carried the scent of old grain. He nodded without a word of protest. That night, Ali counted his savings, the small stack of worn bills hidden carefully beneath the bed. It wasn't enough. So he borrowed, begged, scraped together what he could to make sure Zoya had everything she needed to leave. The 17-year-old girl left the village with new shoes, a red cloth bag, and eyes full of excitement toward a place where the lights never went out. Before leaving, she turned back and said, half joking, half hinting, "Oh, and I need a phone." "I mean, who moves to the city without a phone these days?" Ali just smiled, gently patted her head, and whispered, "I'll send one to you soon." And so, once again, Ali entered a race without a finish line. He worked overtime at a tannery, an exhausting, toxic job. At night, he worked as a night guard at a warehouse on the outskirts of town. He lived on instant noodles, slept curled up on a cold cement floor, and woke in fevers just to keep a promise. Months later, when he had enough, he bought a phone, not the most expensive one, but the best he could afford. He wrapped it carefully in old floral paper, then caught a bus to the city. He didn't tell Zoya he was coming. He wanted it to be a surprise. If you're still watching this video and you felt the weight of Ali's sacrifice, Please comment the number 2 below to let us know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we encourage you to hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell so you don't miss any future content. Your support helps us keep creating powerful stories to inform and inspire you. When Ali arrived, Zoya was sitting in a stylish cafe, laughing with a group of friends. She wore a dress, light makeup, and had the confident gaze of someone who had already left the village far behind. Ali stood at the door, hands trembling as he held his gift. He stepped in, smiling. "Zoya." She turned. Her expression froze for a second when she saw him, his faded shirt, cheap sandals, and sun-darkened face. Why didn't you tell me you were coming? I came to see you. And I brought this for you." Ali unwrapped the gift and held out the phone. Zoya took it, visibly surprised. But when she opened it, her face fell. This old thing? You expect me to use this in front of my friends?" The words hit like freezing rain. Ali stood silent. The smile faded from his lips. His hands trembled not from fear, but from something breaking inside. I'm sorry. It's the best I could afford," Ali whispered. Zoya didn't answer. She set the phone on the table, then shoved it hard. The screen cracked under the cafe light, shards glinting like clotted blood. Ali bent down, picked it up. He didn't cry, but his eyes were empty. I'll go now," he said softly, turned, and walked out past the cold stairs, out into a night as heavy and dark as his heart. Zoya didn't follow. She sat back, laughing along with her friends as if nothing of importance had happened. The city began to consume her. She grew used to late-night parties, tight dresses, and the sly glances of a man named Ahmed, someone she believed might be destiny. Ahmed was handsome, smooth-talking, and knew how to make Zoya feel special. He whispered promises of luxury cars, houses, a beautiful life. But Ahmed had no money. Zoya knew that. And in a strange moment of thought, she offered a solution. "I have a piece of land in the village," she said, eyes glinting. "If we sell it, we can start fresh." Ahmed didn't object. His eyes lit up. "Right. The land your parents left you. Why not? Just one problem, on paper, that land still belonged to Ali." Zoya understood what had to be done. She would have to return to the village and face her brother. She came back after more than a year away. Ali met her at the village gate. Still the same faded shirt. Still the same familiar smile. Still those eyes full of hope. "Zoya, you're back. I knew you'd return." She didn't hug him. She didn't smile. She didn't mention the past. "I want to sell my part of the land," she said coldly. "I need the money." Ali froze. "Zoya, that's our home. Where Mom and Dad lived. It's all we have left. But I have a right. I'm their child too. I have my share." She spoke like a command. Ali bowed his head. After a long pause, he finally said, "I can't let you do that. It's not just land. It's our roots. It's everything we have." Zoya clenched her fists. "If you won't give it to me, I'll take it myself." Ali didn't respond. He just stared at her like he was trying to find the person she used to be, somewhere inside the body that still stood before him. And in that very moment the darkness began to swallow everything. That night, a violent wind swept through the valley. Black clouds stormed across the sky like wild beasts, silently devouring the moonlight. Inside the old house with a leaky roof, Ali sat in silence in front of a faded photograph of their parents. The oil lamp flickered weakly, casting a long, distorted shadow of him on the wall like a figure bent out of shape by the harsh winds of life. Zoya had already gone into her room, slamming the door shut. She skipped dinner. She hadn't spoken a word since Ali refused to divide the land. But he knew, something was changing. Her eyes no longer held the light of the little girl who once sat in their mother's lap asking about heaven. Her eyes now belonged to someone else, cold, sharp, and calculating. Ali didn't sleep. He sat there the entire night, as if trying to fuse himself to the house so that if anyone ever tried to take it from him, they would have to pass through every bleeding beat of his heart. The next morning, Zoya rose early. She didn't greet him. She didn't meet his eyes. She simply walked to the front gate and made a phone call. Her voice carried on the wind, short, cold, and with one name spoken in the middle of the conversation: Ahmed. That afternoon, she packed her things. She said she would leave soon, because there's no point staying here when your crazy monk of a brother clings to this broken house like it's some kind of treasure. Ali didn't reply. He simply nodded like someone too used to being left behind. If you're still watching this video and you feel for Ali, please comment the number 5 below to let us know you're still here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, we encourage you to hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell icon so you don't miss any future videos. Your support helps us continue making meaningful content to inform and inspire you. That final night, Zoya returned to Ali's room. But not with an apology. She entered, her hands trembling, hiding something behind her back. Ali looked up, his face lighting up. Zoya. She cut him off, her voice unusually soft. I want to say I'm sorry. Ali blinked in surprise. He had never heard those words from her lips since they were children. I was wrong, about everything. I forgot about you, about our parents. I only thought about myself. Her voice cracked. But her eyes, they were too bright, too sharp, like someone trying to hide something behind a gentle mask. Ali stepped closer, resting a hand on her shoulder. I know. But it's okay. Just having you back is enough for me. That was the moment Zoya tightened her grip with her left hand where a thin knife was hidden. Her fingers trembled. She could hear her heartbeat pounding in her ears. She remembered Ahmed's voice from the other night. If he's gone, everything will be yours. You're the heir. An accident, a mistake, who would ever know? Ali pulled her into a hug. The embrace nearly broke her. She hadn't felt this protected in over a year. His shirt smelled of sweat, wind, and earth, all things that felt like her childhood. But her hands still shook. Ali stepped back slightly, looking into her eyes. Zoya, do you remember those nights when Mom used to tell us stories? Stories about people who got lost not because they had no path, but because they were too afraid to return. Zoya's eyes welled up with tears. We were once 2 little kids curled up on this very bed. I remember you once said, if I ever do something wrong, would you forgive me? And I laughed. And you said, then I'll make a little mistake so you'll have a reason to hug me again. Zoya couldn't breathe. Ali continued slowly. If today, you still want to be forgiven, then you don't need to do anything. Just stay. Stop talking. Stop it. Zoya screamed. I can't take it. Ali stepped back, confused. Zoya stumbled backward, pulling the knife from her sleeve. Ali stood frozen. In the dim light, the blade shimmered like a sliver of the moon torn by the wind. Zoya, What are you doing? I don't know, she whispered, tears spilling down like a broken dam. I don't know anymore. What did you ever do to make me feel this guilty? Nothing, Ali stepped forward. Just, loved you. And in that moment, one breath, one trembling touch of fate, the knife struck. Blood sprayed like crimson petals in the dark. Ali staggered back, clutching his stomach. His eyes widened not from pain, but disbelief. That the person he loved most in the world, was the one who had destroyed him. Zoya, why? His voice drifted like a breeze, so thin it barely reached her ears. Zoya backed away, horrified. Her hand shook violently. The knife clattered to the floor. Blood splattered across her legs. The smell was sharp. The air thickened, like a wall of guilt that could not be pierced. Don't look at me like that. I didn't mean. Ali collapsed, still staring at her. There was no hatred in his eyes. Only deep, profound heartbreak. I'm sorry, for not being able to keep you, he whispered. And then everything faded to black. Zoya stood there, frozen like a statue in the middle of the small, dimly lit room. Her hands were soaked in blood. Her eyes, wide open, were empty of life, and her heart pounded so violently it felt as if it might burst from her chest. Ali lay there motionless, his body twisted as if he were still trying to hold on to the last seconds of a world he had lived entirely for others. No one screamed. No one cried. There was only the wind outside whispering through the cracks in the wooden door like a ghostly lullaby from the other side. She didn't know how long she had stood there. A minute? An hour? Or an entire lifetime? Zoya knelt down and touched Ali's hand. It was ice cold. Brother, she whispered. Please, wake up. No response, just a slow, creeping pool of blood spreading beneath him, staining the old bamboo mat a deep red. Zoya trembled violently, as if her body were about to disintegrate. She staggered to her feet, her vision blurred. The room spun around her. The air was thick like syrup. She dragged an old chest from the corner of the room and, with trembling, panicked hands, silently stuffed his lifeless body inside. Each pull, each knot of rope, felt like driving another nail into her own soul. At dawn, she boarded the earliest bus back to the city. The driver didn't notice her pale, sunken cheeks or the distant, vacant look in her eyes, like someone who had just returned from the underworld. When she arrived, Ahmed was already waiting at their usual cafe. He sat there with a relaxed smile, as if nothing had happened. He pulled out a chair for her, his voice gentle like a model husband. Everything went well, my love. Zoya didn't answer. She only nodded. Her eyes were cloudy, as if veiled in fog. He slid a stack of papers across the table, his voice warm and low. I've already prepared the transfer documents. The house, the land, everything. You just need to sign. After that, it's all over. I'll take care of everything for you. She hesitated for a moment, but his gaze so full of affection and promise softened her. I did everything, for you, she whispered. I know, Ahmed said, placing his hand gently over hers. You're the woman I chose. Zoya signed. Each stroke of the pen was a piece of her soul falling away. But she didn't realize it. She was still convincing herself that happiness was just around the corner. The next day, Ahmed invited her to a high-end bar. Zoya arrived early. She wore light makeup and her best dress. She wanted to start over. She believed the price had been paid and now it was time for the reward. Ahmed entered, wearing a sleek suit. But he wasn't alone. Next to him was another woman, younger, stunning, and clearly, not Zoya. Zoya froze in disbelief. She started to rise, but he held up a hand to stop her. "Sit down." His voice had lost all sweetness. "What is this?" Zoya stammered. Ahmed slumped into the seat across from her, his tone icy as steel. "You really thought I loved you? A woman who killed her own brother chasing a fantasy? You're not worthy of love and certainly not worthy of me." Zoya turned pale. "But, you said you would marry me. That we'd start over. You signed everything. It's done. You have nothing left. Why would I stay with a hollow, crazy, dangerous woman like you? You killed someone for a guy like me. You could kill anyone." His words fell like knives. Zoya lunged across the table, grabbing his arm. "You can't leave me. You promised. I did everything for you." Ahmed shoved her back into her chair. People in the bar started to stare. He adjusted his collar, smirking. "Get out. You disgust me." She sat there, frozen like a statue. The man she had traded blood for, now looked at her like a worn-out rag. She stumbled out of the bar. Rain had begun to fall, cold drops slapping her face. But nothing stung more than the truth. She had killed for an illusion. And now, even the illusion had abandoned her. Zoya wandered the streets, sleeping on park benches under flickering neon signs that seemed to mock her. Then, she started to hear Ali's voice. Clear. Close. "Zoya, aren't you tired yet?" She whipped around. No one was there. "Zoya, I've already forgiven you, so why won't you forgive yourself?" "Shut up," she screamed. But the voice remained in her head. That night, she fell asleep on the street. In her hand, she still clutched an old handkerchief, embroidered with the name Ali in red thread, stitched by her own hands when she was 10 years old. A few days later, in a remote village deep within the forest, a strange smell began to drift through the air. It was a pungent odor somewhere between decaying flesh and damp rot, as if a part of time itself were decomposing. A group of curious neighborhood children ran across Ali's yard. The front door remained closed. No smoke from the kitchen. No footsteps. Nothing. An old woman in the village, the one who had held Ali as a newborn, knocked on the door and called out to the siblings. No response. Alarmed, she called for help. Within minutes, a crowd had gathered. When they broke down the door, the stench of death burst out like a wave. And there they found a wooden chest. The same chest where Ali used to store his old notebooks and childhood toys. Now, it held his corpse, cold, stiff, no longer a face, just closed eyes, as if still waiting for an apology that had never been spoken. The village descended into chaos. News spread like wildfire. Everyone remembered Zoya had been the last one to visit Ali. The police were called. An urgent investigation began. It didn't take long to track Zoya down. She was now living like a shadow in the city, wandering aimlessly, mentally unwell, sometimes crying, sometimes laughing at nothing. They found her sitting under the eaves of an old church, clutching a torn teddy bear, muttering again and again, "I'm sorry. Brother, I was wrong. Please don't leave me." When she was brought into the police station, Zoya didn't resist. She sat there quietly, like a baby animal drained of life. Her eyes no longer responded to light. Every time someone said Ali's name, she would break down in sobs, like a child lost in a midnight marketplace. During the trial, the entire village showed up. No one cried. No one defended her. They just stared at the once beautiful girl, the one Ali used to carry on his back as they flew kites in the fields, now pale, gaunt, and silent before the judge. Zoya didn't deny anything. She spoke only one sentence. "I deserve this." The court sentenced her to life in prison, with aggravated charges murdering a family member for personal gain. The verdict fell like a mourning veil, covering what little was left of Zoya's shattered life. But the real punishment was never written into the law. After a few months in prison, Zoya began to lose touch with reality. She stopped eating, stopped speaking. Each night, she stayed awake whispering Ali's name. She wrote hundreds of letters, every one beginning with, "Brother, I'm sorry." But there was no one left to receive them. Other inmates avoided her. Some feared her. Others hated her. No one wanted to be near someone who had killed their own flesh and blood. Zoya was transferred to a mental asylum. There, she began to hear Ali's voice more clearly. He would come at night, sitting silently at the foot of her bed. No anger. No blame. Just watching. Zoya often screamed, thrashed, begged him to forgive her. But he never spoke. Not once. One night, she screamed into the darkness. "Say something. Yell at me. Hit me. I can take it. Just don't stay silent anymore." But there was no reply. Her time in the asylum became a prison of memory where she relived every sin in the most visceral way, not through storytelling, but through flashbacks that felt like flaying her soul. She saw him sewing her torn shirt, his thin fingers pushing the needle carefully through the fabric, as if it were the most precious thing he owned. She remembered that summer afternoon when she broke her arm, and Ali ran 5 kilometers to fetch the village doctor. Then sat by her side all night, burning with fever, but never once complaining. She remembered the look in his eyes in those final seconds. No hate. Only sorrow, as deep as an ocean trench. "I'm sorry. I couldn't keep you." That pain, nothing could erase it. After 3 years in the asylum, Zoya grew frail. Her eyes dimmed. Her hair grayed. Her body withered, skin clinging to bone. One rainy evening, she sat quietly in the corner of her room and wrote a few words on a torn piece of bedsheet. "I'm going to find him. Maybe, in the next life, I'll be the little brother. And he'll be the big sister. Then I'll make it right from the beginning." The next morning, a nurse found her lifeless. No one knew the exact cause. Just a faint trickle of blood from her nose, a weak smile on her lips, and a single tear, still clinging to her cheek. They brought her body back to the village, buried her a few meters away from Ali's grave. The law didn't allow them to lie side by side. No one attended her funeral. Only the same old woman who had once held them both as babies came. She laid a wildflower on the grave and murmured, "All sins can end, if one finds their way back. But some roads back, can only be found in another lifetime." In the Sutra of Earth Store Bodhisattva, the Buddha once said, "If not for the great compassion and vows of Earth Store Bodhisattva, beings in the hell realms would have no chance of escape." Zoya, who seemed to be living in the world of the living, had, in truth, long fallen into a mental hell. A place with no physical chains, no demons, but filled with enough greed, anger, and ignorance to burn away every last trace of wisdom and compassion. Earth Store Bodhisattva, Kshitigarbha, is known in Mahayana teachings as the Bodhisattva with the deepest vow. Until the hells are emptied, I will not become a Buddha. Until all beings are saved, I will not attain enlightenment. The story of Zoya and Ali, under the light of the Earth Store Sutra, is not just a tragedy between two siblings. It is a precise mirror of millions of human hearts, those darkened by delusion, covered by ignorance. Zoya had fallen into three major realms of hell. 1. The hell of the heart, where she forgot the source of love, lived as if the world owed her, and saw love not as a blessing to be cherished, but as a right to be consumed. 2. The hell of action, where she created karma through violence, not only by killing her brother, but by destroying the good karmic seeds their parents had planted. 3. The hell of guilt, where there was no punisher but herself, locked in a self-made prison echoing with the endless name, Ali. The Buddha taught in the Earth Store Sutra. Beings in Jambudvipa, with a single unwholesome thought, already plant karmic seeds. How much more so with unwholesome actions in body, speech, and mind. Just a single unwholesome thought, if not illuminated by mindfulness, can slowly gather into destructive karmic momentum. And Zoya is the clearest example. She wasn't evil from the start. But day by day, little by little, her delusion and greed nurtured a poisonous tree in her heart, one that grew wild in a mind untended by compassion. If, when Zoya first felt jealousy, someone had told her, "That's poison." If, when she made selfish demands, someone had gently said, "No one owes you anything." If, when she grew angry at her brother, someone had helped her return to her breath, to gratitude, then maybe, just maybe, there wouldn't have been an ending soaked in blood and tears. The Earth Store Sutra also teaches, when sentient beings are lost in darkness and commit evil, if someone recites the name of Earth Store Bodhisattva on their behalf, their hearts can slowly be illuminated and freed from suffering. What does this mean? It means we, the living, have a responsibility not just to the innocent, but also to the lost. We don't tell Zoya's story to cast blame, not to lecture, but to illuminate ourselves. Haven't we all, at some point, been like her? Gotten angry at our parents for not giving us what we wanted? Shouted at a partner because they weren't good enough? Turned our backs on someone who truly loved us, chasing after someone who only wore a mask? Zoya has no more chances. But we do. If you still have parents, bow to them. If you still have siblings, hold them close. If someone ever sacrificed for you, call their name with gratitude before that name becomes a memory soaked in regret. The Earth Store Sutra further says, if one sincerely repents, recites the sutra, invokes the Bodhisattva's name, and makes a vow to transfer merit, then evil karma can be transformed, and the heart will awaken. So, if you've ever hurt your family, if you've ever spoken words that wounded someone who loved you, if you've been ungrateful, recite the Earth Store Sutra just once. No one else needs to hear it. You just need to know, you are returning. If you can, set up a small altar. Light incense. Call out the name of the one you neglected. And say, I'm sorry. I repent. I vow to live the rest of my life in compassion and mindfulness. Ali is gone. But his love never truly left. Zoya is gone. But her final wish for rebirth is a tiny seed of redemption in a new life. And you, quietly reading these words right now, can choose, right now, not to live the rest of your life as another Zoya. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this story. We believe that every minute you spend listening is a seed of goodness planted in your heart. As the Buddha once said, no seed is ever wasted in a field that has been tilled by mindfulness. Folded hands, thank you for being with us today. We'd truly love to hear from you. Backhand index pointing right. Please leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today, and how you plan to use it in your own life. Speech balloon, your thoughts mean a great deal to us. Please don't hesitate to share. Sparkles, reading your comments gives us strength and inspiration to continue. If you enjoyed this video and found it meaningful, please give it a like, subscribe, and share it with others. Your support allows us to keep creating powerful content that informs and uplifts. Thank you for watching. We look forward to seeing you in the next video. Namo Earth Store Bodhisattva, Mahasattva. Namo Earth Store Bodhisattva, Mahasattva. Namo Earth Store Bodhisattva, Mahasattva.